What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Welcome back. As always, thank you for joining me. My name's Paul Bretto. Today we're here to go through some position previews, doing an offseason preview, going position by position over at ESPNlacrosse.com. So today we're going to talk about the running backs and the tight end positions. But first, you know what to do. Hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Bretto. And like I said, find the article versions of what we're discussing here today and the rest of my work over at ESPNlacrosse.com and download the 1055 ESPN Lacrosse app. Packers, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers, whatever you might need. So, like I said, I'm doing position by position preview, and what this entails is an overview and then a discussion around the positional need that the Packers have there this offseason. Is there one? Is there not one? To what extent do they need to address the position? And then in the article version, I also take a look at the Packers salary cap situation and then go through some of the top options in free agency and in the draft at that specific position group. For our conversations today, we're just going to stick to the overview and then what's the need at that position. And we'll kick things off here with the running back. So again, this was obviously the running game for the Packers. It was a huge success this year with Josh Jacobs. His impact on the field, off the field as a leader, massive for this Packers team. There was a very much a shift within this Packers team in the LaFleur offense to being a run-centric unit, right? The run game was, especially during that second half stretch of the season coming out of the bye, the run game was often the catalyst behind the Packers' success that they had, the catalyst behind their wins, provided them stability. You know, we know the ups and downs that the passing game had throughout the season, but they, for the most part, oftentimes had a really strong running game to lean on. We also saw their performance in the red zone and on third downs, again, as the year went on up until those final few games of the year, as the Packers did seem to be trending in the right direction. We saw their performance on third downs and in the red zone really improve in the second half of the season versus the first half. And again, I think a lot of that, as we talked about, as I wrote about during the season, can be attributed to Josh Jacobs and the running game. Jacobs finished the season rushing for 1,329 yards, 15 touchdowns. So he had the sixth most rushing yards out of any running back. He had the fourth most touchdowns. He had the fourth most missed tackles forced this season. And then the running back room as a whole, Emmanuel Wilson hit over 100 carries this season, averaged 4.9 yards per rush. And every time Wilson touches the ball, not just this year, but going back to training camp of 2023, as a rookie, when we were first introduced to Emmanuel Wilson, he always just seems to have this ability to generate a big play. And I remember talking to running backs coach Ben Sermons about that during the season, and he just attributed that to Wilson's ability to really change directions quickly without losing speed. So it's a combination of the vision that he has to recognize where to go, the ability to get to that new point, again, quickly on a dime without losing much speed in the process. And then there's Chris Brooks, filled a do-it-all type of role at that running back position for the Packers. Very, very steady, reliable as a blocker. We saw him moved around the formation as well too, right? Some slot snaps. We saw some two running back sets with him and Josh Jacobs in the backfield together. So Packers had a very, very strong run game. Obviously a very complete running back room for the most part, skill set wise, ability wise, production wise from this Packers team. So, and when there's that, and we've talked about this quite a bit, but when there's that positive impact from the running game, when any offense, not just the Packers, have a strong running game that they can lean on, there's such a massive, massive trickle down effect to the rest of that unit. When you're ahead of the sticks, right, you're picking up 4 or 5 yards a carry, you're in second and short, third and short situations, you have the advantage as the offense. You can run any play that's out there. The entire playbook's open to you. It opens up opportunities in the passing game. The defense is on its heels because now they have to defend both the run and the pass. They have to defend the entire field. There's more spacing for the offense to operate in. Conversely, when there isn't a run game to lean on, and now you're in second and long, you're in third and long situations, the defense has the advantage. Their pass rush can pin their ears back. They know a pass is coming. The secondary has the advantage from the coverage standpoint. When you're in a third and 9 and you got to pick up at least 9 yards, move the chains, there's only so many routes you can run in those situations. So again, defense very much has the upper hand. So the run game, so much success. And again, not just for the Packers, but for most teams throughout the NFL, it starts with that ability to have a run game to lean on. Now, areas of opportunity for this Packers team, because again, I think we'd all categorize the addition of Josh Jacobs, the Packers running back room as a whole, their run game this past season, it was a success, right? It was, for all the reasons just mentioned, a really, really important part of this Packers team getting to 11 wins, getting into the playoffs. But as we look ahead to the 2025 season, the offseason, areas of opportunity, and in a video not too long ago, I discussed something similar to this. But if there's one area of opportunity for this Packers run game, it's the ability to generate big runs. Well, Josh Jacobs was excellent at churning out 4, 5, 6-yard carries. And again, that's extremely valuable for all the reasons we just mentioned. He averaged 4.4 yards per rush, and we saw routinely his ability to make defenders miss. I can't even remember how many runs there were where it looked like he had nowhere to go at the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden he gets 3-4 yards out of it. His ability to make defenders miss is very real, very tangible, and a big part of the run game success. And when it comes to generating those big runs, quantity-wise, Jacobs had the 11th most runs of 15 or more yards a season. Again, that's good, right? Generating big plays. But I don't think, and again, I know I've talked about this before, but I don't think that's an accurate representation of the Packers' run game ability to generate big plays. And the reason I say that is because Jacobs was had some of the most carries of any running back in football. So again, you have a player of Jacobs' caliber getting a ton of touches. Quantity-wise, there's going to be some big plays that are generated, right? He's a really, really good running back. But I think what's more accurate of the Packers' ability to generate those big plays is Jacobs ranked 32nd among running backs in PFF's breakaway percentage. And again, a breakaway run is a carry of 15 or more yards. So Jacobs ranked 32nd in that regard. And again, I think that's a bit more accurate in terms of the Packers' ability to generate those big plays. And again, we know Jacobs has the ability to make defenders miss. We know he can run away from some defenders as well. But I think a big contributor to the lack of big plays was that he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, a yard or two in front of the line of scrimmage, way too often. Out of his 1,329 yards, according to Pro Football Focus, 1,039 of them, so 78% of Josh Jacobs' yards, came after contact. There are only 2 running backs in football who had more yards after contact than Josh Jacobs. It was Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Now, the difference here is that those 2 backs, Saquon Barkley did rush for more than 2,000 yards. Derrick Henry was really close. The percentage of their yards that came after contact was in the 50 to 55% range. Again, Josh Jacobs was at the 78% mark. So how do you get more big runs? Well, you get to the second level clean as a running back, right? You get to that second level where there's space, where you have the ability to make defenders miss, as we know Josh Jacobs does. And I just don't think the Packers, the offensive line, were able to steadily do that consistently enough this season for there to be enough opportunities to be able to generate those big plays. Now, I think, and again, I can't sit here and say for certainty how big of a role these elements played in this, but there's 2 big differences this season in the Packers offense, run game wise, versus previous years. We saw a ton more gap scheme blocking from the Packers, and that's running between the tackles. Traditionally, Matt LaFleur's offense, it's outside zone, right? It's getting the offensive lineman in space. It's getting the running back outside the tackle box. And as he's rolling towards the sidelines, he's either looking, all right, am I going to try to turn this or take this to the boundary and turn it upfield? Or he's looking for a running lane to open up with his offensive lineman that he can cut through. That's traditionally what the Packers do. But this season, we saw a lot more, again, of that gap scheme. Power running between the tackles. It's what Josh Jacobs does well. It's what Josh Jacobs does best. We also saw a lot more runs out of shotgun from the Green Bay Packers. And again, that's an adjustment that Matt LaFleur made within his offense because it's what suits Josh Jacobs. It's where he's most comfortable. It's where he's at his best. So as we look ahead to 2025, do the Packers continue down that path? Is this who they are as a running offense because of who they have in the backfield? And hopefully with that, as you get the offensive line, the offense as a whole, more adept to to operating within that type of scheme? Do we see more comfort, more continuity, more improved, consistent play from a blocking standpoint in the run game? Again, because you've had a whole season to operate within that system. Or because it's year 2, does the pendulum swing back in the other direction a little bit, where maybe it's having Josh Jacobs make a bit more of the adjustment, saying, hey, we're going to do more under center. We're going to do more of the outside zone running scheme. So I think that's something that Matt LaFleur and the coaching staff, as they dive into this offseason, what went well, what can we continue to leverage, what do we have to improve upon? I think that's one of those questions that they have to answer. And I think another area that we could see running back specific, the Packers do a little bit more of this upcoming year, is getting that position group involved in the passing game. Josh Jacobs ranked 27th out of 57 eligible running backs in targets this season. Manuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, they didn't have enough targets to even qualify for that list of 57 players. So I think there's more opportunity there, other than just, again, there's check down opportunities if your receivers, your tight ends aren't open and you got to get the ball out quick. But is there more opportunities to get that position group involved? Because then that becomes another dimension to your offense, another element that defenses have to be prepared for, right? It's potentially spacing that defense out, because now they have to be aware of where the running back's going. So again, can that be something else that's added to this Packers offense? Just again, another dimension, another layer for defenses have to prepare for. And I think potentially to both of those questions, the big plays as well as the passing game element, I think Marshawn Lloyd, again, who missed most of his rookie season because of injury, potentially he could be the one to help in those areas. Again, provides terrific juice as a ball carrier. I can't tell you, watching him at training camp, when he puts his foot in the ground and cuts up field, it is lightning quick. It is lightning fast how quick he can change direction, the burst that he has, the speed that he has. Like Gutekunst said, LaFleur said after the draft, there's a different element that Marshawn Lloyd brings to the Packers backfield. In addition to that, Matt LaFleur has also praised his ability as a pass catcher and that element that he can add as well. So does having him available this upcoming year hopefully help improve the Packers in those two areas that we just mentioned. Now, lastly, with the running back position, what's the need this offseason? Free agency, the draft, what's the level of need for the Packers? It's really, really low. Really, really low at this position group. Josh Jacobs is entering year 2 of his 4-year contract with the Packers. Marshawn Lloyd entering year 2 of his rookie deal with the Packers. Chris Brooks is still under contract for the 2025 season. I fully do expect Manuel Wilson to be back with the Green Bay Packers for the 2025 season. So again, if things do play out that way, you have Wilson back for this year. You have Chris Brooks back for this year. You have Josh Jacobs back for 3 seasons yet. You have Marshawn Lloyd back for 3 seasons yet. So no, the running back position, as I'm sure as you're all aware, is not one that we're going to see the Green Bay Packers add to in free agency or the draft. Now, I will say, after the draft, undrafted free agents, absolutely. We could see the Packers bring in a running back to compete, with an Ellis Merriweather on that back end of the depth chart, the practice squad role. I think that that's absolutely in play. For one, you need depth for training camp, right? For OTAs, you need to have 5, 6, sometimes running backs on your roster just to get through those dog days of summer. And I think too, we've seen Brian Gutekunst continually churn the back end of the roster to try to elevate the competition for those, maybe not in this instance because the running back room's pretty well established, maybe not the final roster spots, but the players competing for the practice squad. So I think if there is going to be a new face in this Packers running back room for OTAs, for training camp, it's going to come after the draft. An undrafted rookie, take a swing on someone that you like, see what you can get there. But again, for all the reasons we've mentioned, all the players we've discussed, this is an established room and not one that Brian Gutekunst really has to be concerned with at this time. So I know at the start of all this, I said we're going to do running backs and tight ends today. The running back one got away from me time-wise. I typically like to have these in the 15, 20-minute range. So we'll do a separate video in the coming day or two about the tight end position specifically. But if you've come this far, 1, I appreciate it. But 2, you might as well hit like. You might as well hit subscribe. Follow all my work over at ESPNlacrosse.com. Find me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. Download the 1055 ESPN Lacrosse app. And until next time, friends, take care.